Today's video is all about NextDoor, and you're probably thinking, isn't that the app where all my neighbors get angry at each other? Yes, the very same, only this time it's a platform to help you generate listings and buyers galore. Welcome to This Week in Marketing. My name is Jason Pantana. I'm your host, and I'm so glad you're tuned in. If you're new to the podcast, make sure to tap that big red subscribe button and the little bell icon right next to it if you want to get notified whenever we publish new videos just like this, so you can take action and get your marketing leveled up. Today's video is sort of a two-pronged approach. The first segment is called News and Updates, and I'm going to talk to you about what's happening with Google business profiles. There's a scam that you need to be made aware of. Then I'm going to talk to you about Instagram and its algorithm because they're tinkering, and I'm going to give you the edge so that when you publish on Instagram, you get the widest possible reach and the best performance on all your content. And then last, there's an update related to Google Trends. That is a hack. It is an opportunity to be aware of what's trending on Google and let that then parlay into the content you're publishing on social so you get the best performance out of it. Then we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk to Rockstar listing agent Ashley Blackmore out of Durango, Colorado, who has cracked the code on NextDoor marketing to generate listings and buyers and get those sales closed. So welcome to This Week in Marketing. My name is Jason Pantana. I'm your host, and I'm so glad you're tuned in, watching, or listening, whatever your choice of content consumption is. I'm just happy you're here. If you are new to the channel, it would mean a ton to Ferry and to me if you would tap that big red subscribe button so that you get notified whenever we publish new content just like this one here. So let's kick things off first with news and updates. First things first, I've got your marketing news and updates, beginning with a warning. There's been a scam going on in Google for some time now with Google business profiles. Search Engine Land outlines it right here, whereby what folks are doing is they're looking up a competitor's business, and this is fraudulent. I'm going to tell you now, this is wrong what they're doing. Don't go do this. This is fraudulent. Anyways, they're looking up a Google business profile on Google, opening it up in Maps, and they're clicking that Edit Map Location button, and they're taking the pinned location and moving it someplace else as if to reduce or diminish the location authority of that specific business because maybe they don't want them to rank or they want to step in and outrank them. That pinned location determines your proximity, your vicinity of local SEO. So if they move the pinned location, then when customers in those areas or looking in those areas start to run searches, that Google business profile's ability to rank high in the search results was just obliterated because they moved the pin out of it. And Google's like, oh, if a customer says so, because Google business profiles, formerly Google My Business, have always been built upon Google's ability to search online and find out about a business and then adjust the profile based upon what other contents can be found about that business online. But also, it depends a lot on user-generated content. So those suggest edit buttons give a lot of power to just random users on Google to help manage and police the Google Business Profile network. So here's what you need to do about it. One, you need to make sure it didn't happen to you. Go to your Google Business Profile, open it up in Google Maps, look at that pinned location, and ensure that your pinned location is where it's supposed to be. And if it is not where it's supposed to be, then here's what you do. You do not change it while you're logged in to the account associated with your Google Business Profile. You need to log into a different email altogether that has nothing to do with your Google Business Profile login credentials. Go find your Google Business Profile on Google, open it up in Maps, and then effectively undo what somebody might have done to you, which is you're going to grab that pinned location and then suggest an edit and move it back to where it's supposed to go to improve your local SEO. Because the way this thing works is part of the vicinity update built into Google's algorithm that when people run searches for the best of your business, the best realtor near me, for instance, the proximity of your business address based upon where that searcher is located is a massive factor. And we know that right now customers are finding more and more businesses, especially in real estate, online through their Google business profiles. So don't be the victim of the scam. Next up in marketing news and updates is Instagram. They're always in my marketing news and updates because they're always tinkering. Specifically, they're always messing with the algorithm, the almighty algorithm that determines how far and wide Instagram distributes your next post to your followers, to non-followers, to your local marketplace, etc. Somewhat recently, a video was made and published by the CEO of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, in which he outlined the number one most important metric on Instagram that's going to dictate and determine how far and wide Instagram is going to go with your post. Is it going to succeed or fail based upon this one metric? And that metric was dubbed sends per reach. What does that mean? Well, it means if your post reaches 1,000 accounts on Instagram, how many of those users shared it or sent it, you should say. What does that mean? Well, that means they clicked that paper airplane icon underneath your photo, your carousel, your video, your reel, whatever it was. They shared it. They could share it to their stories. They could group message it. They could single message it. When you hit that paper airplane icon, the send or the share button, you're effectively DMing people the content. Now, why does Instagram care so much about that? Well, the answer lies in their arch nemesis, TikTok, because TikTok lacks something Instagram has. Instagram has a thriving direct message community. TikTok has never been able to replicate to the degree that Instagram has, and so they're going to press their advantage. And so they're optimizing content to be shared sort of internally through the DMs, because that just reinforces the power of the network, and it makes Instagram that much stickier in terms of users and connection and social and all the good stuff of that. So they're prioritizing it. You should be asking the question, how do I make my content more shareable? Well, what gets shared? Entertaining content certainly gets shared, but not everything's entertaining or funny. But what else gets shared? Interesting, informational content gets shared, specifically if it's locally interesting or relevant. Because think about this, if you're making content that is local on a hyper-local level, well, that means people who aren't in your local marketplace don't care about that content and thus won't share it. But the ones who do share it will be locals because they're like, ooh, you need to know this. This is hot off the press. This is relevant to us, my personal community with where I live. And so they share it, and they're effectively priming the algorithm to say, oh, well, I should share it with other locals because when these folks get their eyeballs on it, they share it with other locals. And so what you're doing is you're effectively telling Instagram, by making content that's so hyper local, only locals would care about it, and then they share it with other locals. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy of telling the algorithm where you want your content to go to build your brand in your backyard, where there are local buyers and sellers considering making a move or referring business your way. Sends per reach. And finally, not too long ago, Google revealed a brand new makeover of Google Trends, specifically this section right here called Trending Now, which is pretty useful because you can drill down to a super local level. So for example, I did Nashville, Tennessee. You can go in the past 4 hours. What's trending? What's relevant in the last 4 hours? Or I'm at 48 hours, and you can look at all trends or active trends. Active trends just means they're meeting certain thresholds of, wow, this is really, really like a steep rate of people talking about it. It's super trending, basically. I've got it set to all trends. A trend is a trend. And then I'm sorting it by relevance, but you could also sort by title, by search volume. You could search by recency. These are really useful. You can export the data, but it's telling me what's trending. And like, this is a road, so there must have been a traffic jam like 30 minutes ago on Concord Road, for instance. But if I scroll down a little bit, you'll find people like Chick-fil-A apparently, and Costco. Is it a good time to go to Costco? But this one was interesting to me, Labor Day meaning. Yesterday was Labor Day. I'm filming this video the day after Labor Day. And so I did that same search yesterday myself. What was the original meaning of Labor Day? I found myself not knowing. And so therein lies an example where somebody could potentially create content because there's a question or a topic that's relevant right now. It's trending right now. And so Google Trends could be a very useful tool if you're looking to kind of trend jack with maybe an Instagram reel or a video or your blog or your content and you want to get ranked and found, you should really check out this new Trending Now feature that's part of Google Trends. That does it for news and updates. Let's shift gears into that interview I promised you with Rockstar realtor Ashley Blackmore out of Durango, Colorado, who has cracked the code on NextDoor. Yes, the very same NextDoor where all your neighbors get angry about random nonsense, where they post images of whatever their Ring doorbell captured at night. Is that a bear? What is that? Is that a wolf? What is that? The very same NextDoor. Ashley has demystified and figured out how to generate listings and buyers off of NextDoor, and she's going to share with you exactly how she does it today so that you can R&D, rip off and duplicate. Let's jump into my interview with Ashley Blackmore. Ashley, I am so pumped for this discussion. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here again with you, Jason. Last time I saw you was on a stage, and now we're here on a podcast.
Yeah, so the world was talking after Success Summit last week about your strategies for NextDoor. And I know a lot of folks are probably watching with a level of skepticism of NextDoor. Are you kidding me? NextDoor? Before they judge, I would love for you to share the results of what's been happening in terms of a legitimate business you're garnering because of NextDoor.
Yep. So the results of Nextdoor since I first posted this at the beginning of the year has been 6 listings, 3 buyers, and my most recent transaction was for $1.3 million. Our average price point in Durango, Colorado is $700,000.
Okay. And how big is Durango, Colorado in terms of population?
Our population of Durango fluctuates because we're a tourism-based town, but our
Yeah.
actual population is 19,000 to 21,000 people.
Okay, so this is a small town, fairly remote area, and you're generating a significant amount of business. How much money do you spend on Nextdoor to generate this business?
I have $0 invested in NextDoor.
All right, so I think everybody should have their interest piqued in terms of multiple ends on your part, both buyers and sellers, for free. So, talk to us about what the Nextdoor app is. Let's just start from the very beginning. Everybody thinks that it's the place where people post fake pictures of weird creatures looking at the Ring doorbell cameras. What is Nextdoor?
So basically, I'm still not exactly sure, and I don't think everybody's exactly sure what Nextdoor is. I got on it when we first moved into the subdivision that we just moved into, and I didn't really know at that point how to use the app. I just signed up for it, and then it pulls based off of a radius of whatever your subdivision is that you live in, and
Yep.
then I just ended up kind of on that app trying to see who lived nearby. And then I did see so many negative comments on Nextdoor. I actually just didn't really do anything with the app. So it was just kind of sitting there in no man's land until the beginning of this year when we had a no
Mm,
supply of homes. Like we had nobody bringing their homes to the market. And then I had a few buyers at that time, but my one buyer was getting relocated for a government job. And so they only have a period of time before the closing costs aren't covered. So it was really late at night, and I rolled over to my husband and I told him I was going to post this like desperation, basically like Jimmy Mackin's buyer letter on
yeah.
Nextdoor because I had already tried Facebook. I had already, posted it on my Instagrams, my personal and my business. And so I said I was going to post on this Nextdoor app. And he's like, that is a terrible idea. You're going to be crying in like 10 minutes after everybody just roasts you. And Durango has a mix of people that feel like the prices of homes have priced out the locals that live in the area. So
Uh,
there is a lot of people that post really negative things about real estate or realtors and things like that. So I was like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. I have everything to gain, and I work for my clients. I don't work for these other people that are upset. So, anyways, I made the post, and it was that post that had over 3,000 insights, which is basically like
impression.
views.
Yeah.
And it actually was one that led to 3 listings because
Wow.
people reached out to me thanking me for going the extra mile for their buyers and that they felt maybe they were hesitant of going on the market or they had a bad experience with a previous realtor, but they could really see I was like going above and beyond to get my clients something. So that was pretty exciting.
That is all right. So let's back up a few steps. So next door, I want to go back to the very beginning. You move into a subdivision, and so I want to make something clear for those watching or listening. Next door is a social network for neighbors, and so you get invited to it, and they're going to mail you a PIN code to verify that you live in a specific area, so that you can be a part of that network. I cannot be on your Nextdoor network and you can't be on my Nextdoor network. So to participate organically, you have to be a local resident of a specific area. So the first thing I want to make clear is you're participating in your Nextdoor network, not somebody else's, because the other way to get involved on Nextdoor is through paid ads. They do have an advertising portal whereby you can run ads in different markets where maybe you're not doing business, but it will always show as being sponsored or an ad. It's a social network. So it's going to function a lot like that. You're being proactive in your own marketplace. I think your husband's comment was funny because it's like they're going to roast you on the app, but they didn't. And one would think that. So I have a couple of questions. I have this assumption. You got a lot of, you called them insights. I'll call them views or impressions. Were the views and impressions comparable to the number of comments and likes you got, or did you get a lot of views and not a lot of engagement?
So actually, all of the engagement, mainly nobody likes and no one comments on Nextdoor, but they
Oh,
always blow up your DMs. So
none then.
that's where you see a lot of the engagement on there. And I want to comment on your comment about how you have to participate within your subdivision.
Yeah.
Actually, on the Nextdoor app in the top right hand corner, there is now a button where you can share anyone.
Oh,
So that's actually anyone based off of the algorithm of Nextdoor. And I think
okay.
that's where some people are missing that. So I always make sure when I make these posts, I do anyone.
Does it give you any, so I'm learning new things today. Does it give you analytics in terms of where the reach was, or does it give you limited optics? So when you look at the analytics of this one post you spoke of that was the catalyst of the strategy, were you getting viewership all over the city of Durango, or was it pretty concentrated in your area? What did you experience?
It was all over within a 30-mile radius of my town,
Okay.
which is the town of Durango, which has a bunch of different geographies. Now, 30 minutes away from us is a town called Bayfield. I did not get any insights outside of Bayfield. Everybody was located in Durango, Colorado.
Okay. And the listings, were they in your subdivision or beyond?
Oh, way beyond. Nothing was in my subdivision.
It's fascinating. Okay, so let me just make sure I'm tracking along because I'm slow to the uptake apparently. You're using the organic side of Nextdoor. You did a post. I want to get into the letter of what you posted. What was the Jimmy Mackin language that you integrated in there? I think that's going to be important because whatever it was, it had an air of sincerity to it that caused a really legitimate response. You're hitting a little button that allows it to go beyond just the isolated network, beyond your own network. So you're getting exposure on your organic post that cost you nothing. You're getting exposure on it in neighboring towns and markets, nothing too far away where it would be ridiculous that you would never consider listing there. And because of it, folks are messaging you in your DMs on Instagram, right? So they're looking you up on Instagram to see is she legitimate, and then they message you there. And it's effectively folks who are, was it a come list me call? What was the kind of response you got from the folks who reached out because of your post who wanted to list?
So it turned into more come list me calls on Instagram, but the DMs in the actual Nextdoor app were,
Okay.
hello, I am, say Tika, that's an example, but my name's
Yeah.
Tika. I live at blah, blah, blah address. And I don't know if my house is going to be a match for your clients, but I see you going above and beyond. Would you like to come see my home and see if it's a good match? And so I went out there and I was very straight to the point. I'm like, this doesn't check any of the boxes I made on my Nextdoor post. I was like, but I would be more than happy to list your home. And she said, I had a terrible experience, but I would like, I see your marketing. I got on your Instagram. I see that you go above and beyond. And at that point, it's just like another avenue to make a know, like, and trust. And so that's how I got that listing because a lot of the listings, a lot of the houses that people directly messaged me about on Nextdoor, this is the interesting part, didn't even check my client's box at all. Didn't
So
have
what
a shop or didn't have any, like they don't match.
so what do you think activated them?
I think honesty. I think being authentic. I think not advertising to them. I think saying, because my buyer letter basically was very detailed. It says, I have this couple with one child. They're looking to purchase a home. I've done a few of them, but this is just one of them. Under $950,000 with a shop and an RV pad, and they need to move within X amount of time, and they're motivated and they're ready and they know exactly what they're looking for. Just the ironic thing was that the people that sent me DMs, like they knew their properties didn't match. They didn't have a garage or they didn't have an RV pad or they didn't have a shop. But what I think they appreciated is they knew I worked in the business and they
Yeah.
knew that I would work really hard in that business to make sure my clients were taken care of. And then that's why I think that they wanted to go with me and why they ultimately ended up listing with me was because what I said on Nextdoor is directly conveyed on my Instagram of me doing the work, not
So
just out there soliciting, trying
I
to
would
get a
also
list.
add this for sellers, one of the major reservations that a lot of prospective sellers might have is the uncertainty of the sale. They hear news about the marketplace and they're looking for whatever gives them certainty in the outcome. And when they start seeing a letter as detailed as what you listed out in terms of this buyer, it almost seems like, a bird in hand is better than two in the bush. It seems like a sure thing on some level that gives them an onus of control, whereby, okay, well, if we know the buyer in advance, that gives us an advantage in terms of going to find the next house. It seems like there was a level of assurance or certainty involved in knowing who the buyer was up front, and that might have attracted them. So you met with these folks. What were the listing presentations like? Was there anything unusual? Was there anything that stood out to you that was maybe indicative of how this interaction started with them because of Nextdoor?
They were just they're just always really welcoming. They know that I'm actually doing business. So I think that they kind of lean into me as more of an expert.
Yeah.
None of these listings have I had to sit down and flip through a listing presentation with them. They are more like, please, like, come in, and I'll say straight up, this house doesn't have a 2-car garage. This house doesn't have a pad, an RV pad. This probably is not going to match my client. They're like, yeah, we know, but we know that you know what buyers are looking for. So will you
Mhm.
come through this home and like, let's have a conversation. So I'll go through their house. And a lot of these, which is very interesting, are relist from previous
I was
agents.
gonna I was gonna ask that. So I was gonna ask, was this just a, oh, let's sell our house today, kind of an outreach, or what was the situation for these folks?
So most of my clients that I've worked with on Nextdoor, only one of them was a fresh new listing. They were
Mm,
actually listings that were previously listed with other real estate agents or companies. And when they brought me in, Jason, like they're asking me for advice. How do I
mhm.
make this home more sellable? Or I never thought I was going to sell my home. I'm like, oh, we can totally sell your home. Let's go through this. Let's do a little staging consultation. Let's think about this. Let's think about that. And so I really learned a lot too of what's going on in my marketplace. And it
Yeah.
all started from Nextdoor.
Wow. Okay, so you post on Nextdoor an earnest letter trying to help your buyers find a property. They know exactly what they're looking for. They did not find the property they were looking for. I assume you're still working with those buyers, or maybe you've moved some of them by now. I mean, you live in a town that's 21,000 people, so there probably aren't a ton of homes out there per se for sale. Nonetheless, this incites other people to raise their hands and say, well, we've been trying to sell unsuccessfully, and clearly you have buyers, and we want to work with an agent who has buyers. And so they're coming to you versus you going to them in a sort of expired relisting opportunity, and you're generating listings and lots of sales. And I think it's incredible. Um, Talk to the audience about are is it only ever when you have a buyer that you post that on Nextdoor, or what other types of events are you leveraging, marketable moments are you leveraging on Nextdoor?
So I did do one trial run explaining the story because I've done about 85% of my contracts this year off market because a
Okay.
lot of the listings that are active, people feel like they're overpriced, so they're not really moving on them because people are testing the market because I'm in a ski town.
Mhm.
So I did do one where I said, if you've been looking for a property under $500,000, 2905 Richard Drive just sold, but you probably never heard about it because it never hit the market. And
Mm.
so I did do that one. I did captions on it and I did make it a little bit more sales pitchy. It got 20 likes on it and it got about 15 comments, which is way more than I've gotten on Nextdoor. But some of those were people, actually, this is the funny thing. One person did post something very negative about my post. And then there was like three people that backed me up, and I have no idea who they are, that were just like, this girl's crushing it, just let her do her business, like there's no harm, there's no foul, she's giving us hope that we can find a property for under 500,000. So that was cool. I mean, it was more controversy than I like because I typically don't do that, but I
It
mean,
is
I
next
did do
door.
that one. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to probably do that one like again right away,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, it all depends on how you pitch it. If you pitch it to be salesy, you're going to make people upset. If you pitch it to be authentically you, and don't worry if there's a typo or whatever, like you're here to work for your clients. And I mean, and it just made me look like a rock star on that $1.3 million listing because that buyer had fired their realtor because she said she wasn't showing her any properties that she liked. And
Yeah.
coincidentally, the property that I found off market on Nextdoor was $1.3 million, top of their budget, but they absolutely fell in love. And the sellers were able to stay in their home for 30 days worth of post occupancy. So it was a win-win for everyone. And now they're sharing that with everyone.
That's
Sorry,
so
the
good.
sun.
And I would imagine, even if you're working with a seller where, hey, I could imagine it being some kind of a pocket listing situation where it's somebody whose sale is contingent on if they can find a property that meets their specifications. I think your word authenticity has a really good ring of truth here. To me, what it is you're simply using the platform to get the word out to see who is interested or not interested in getting involved in a transition. And it's helping everybody out because you're being very candid with the information and it's allowing people to know what is or isn't the opportunity. And I think it's super smart. I think most agents would look at Nextdoor and say, oh, it can't possibly work. And you looked at it and said, I can't possibly ignore it because my client needs it. And look what it's turned into. I think you said 6 listings already this year, plus 3 buy sides. And it's
Yep.
cost absolutely nothing. And I would wonder how many folks are watching or listening, looking for a little edge to get some listings, a little edge to get some tractions, a little edge to make your clients happy because they can see you working in public. And it could be that Nextdoor is that. Ashley, where can these folks watching or listening connect with you?
Colorado Real Estate Ashley on Instagram. I mainly only post on my like private profile for Facebook. So Colorado Real Estate Ashley on Instagram is where I'm at.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for this information, and keep listing and selling homes.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason, as always.
Thanks. Marketing is ever evolving, ever changing, always filled with new opportunities. I'm curious, what are you going to do with what you learned here today? Are you going to crush NextDoor like Ashley does? Are you going to rip off and duplicate? Or are you going to abridge or amend her strategy for your own purposes? Let me know in the comments. And until next week, this is This Week in Marketing.